On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome in. This is Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Hopefully, over the course of the next 90 minutes, you will come to agree. Whether you are listening on SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM Channel 159, or watching across the many, many different ways you can consume SportsGrid TV, we appreciate you for being around here. We got a lot of guests on the way. Our own Joe Madden and Coach James Young. We're going to have Dave Sharapan, a lot of the regulars. Also, Jared Hockman from Covers is going to join us. George Kurtz. There's going to be a ton of hockey talk. We have perhaps the final game of the NHL season tonight. Game 6 Stanley Cup Final in Florida between the Panthers and the Oilers. I hope it's not the last one. I truly hope it is not the last one. And look, I have been an Edmonton backer really all the way throughout this Stanley Cup Final rematch from last year. We've seen a more compelling, a more entertaining series than what we got last year, at least from the jump. Remember, it's easy to forget now because it went to a Game 7, but Florida led that series 3-0. It was a laugher. It was a dud. It was made fun of. It was mocked. It was ridiculed. It was criticized constantly until, oh, by the way, Connor McDavid and company, the Oilers, they woke up, rattled off 3 straight, forced the Game 7, only to then lose that decisive game. Florida is now trying to win consecutive Stanley Cups on their own ice. Very rarely done for teams winning their first 2 championships in their franchise's history, let alone in consecutive years. And there are a lot of different ways that we will discuss during this show how to bet this game, how to think about betting this game. The Oilers, once again, that's where my money is going to be, are the dogs in this one versus the heavily favored Panthers. You can understand why for a couple of reasons. Florida went out and just took them to the woodshed in the last game there in Edmonton, in their house, with the season basically on the line, backs against the wall kind of feeling, not entirely because, of course, they get those potential last breaths tonight, but still, in your own ice, your own building, to get embarrassed in much the way they did, losing 5-2. And what a game, by the way, in terms of the total. If you invested in the over in that one, a terrible beat if you were on the under. We get the over 6.5 goals cashed, courtesy of 5 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 third period goals. Outrageous. Florida had led that game 2-0 before things opened up for both sides, but in particular the Panthers there in that final period. Remember, we have seen a couple of trends go 5-0 so far in the Stanley Cup final. The first period over 1.5 and the full game over 6.5. And look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I am continuing to invest in the over between these two teams. Whenever the Oilers are involved, and I know the Panthers have been doing plenty of scoring themselves, but when McDavid and Draisaitl and all of these guys, Nugent Hopkins and Perry, so on and so forth, when they are involved, I'm not going to bet an under. To quote George Kurtz, I'm never going to bet an Edmonton under. I'm certainly not going to do it in the Stanley Cup final with their season on the line. So I like the over in this game. I like the Oilers in this game. I like that combo in a parlay form. For the previous game, didn't hit. Got the 1 out of 2, betting them straight tonight. And that is how I am investing in this game. I'm not going to wait necessarily for a live opportunity in terms of the total, although I will say it's at least worth consideration and something we will explore with our guests coming up over the course of this show. Now, hand up if you followed out there, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you followed some of the plays that we gave you last night for that basketball game, which, as we know, was won rather decisively by the Oklahoma City Thunder to put the Pacers on the brink of elimination going back to Indiana on Thursday. These stupid travel days. We got to wait an extra day, 2 more days here before we get another NBA game. But I guess, look, part of me would be happy if it wasn't for another week and a half, because it would just mean at least the basketball season was going to last longer. But Thunder go out, and they did exactly what I told you here on this show, filling in for Kevin Walsh yesterday, that I thought was going to happen. Quick start out of the Thunder, cover the 3.5 in the opening quarter, cover the 5.5 in the opening half, and then wait for the number to get inflated. Wait for the number to bloat just a little bit, and then buy back in on the Pacers if you didn't want to get in there pre-flop, as I didn't. I realized the Thunder covered the 9.5. Barely, winning by 11, 120 to 109. But I didn't love it pregame. It was awfully sweaty if you were on that number, given that the Thunder had to outscore the Pacers by 3 in the fourth quarter in order to get there. I thought the Pacers they weren't going to go away. They were going to be plucky and pesky in themselves, as they have been throughout this playoff run, this series included, and just hang around, stay close. The buy point for me was right around halftime, even at halftime, I think it was, when it got up to plus 14.5, 15.5, maybe even 16.5. That's when I bought in. That was the logical time to buy into Indiana. And you didn't need all that wiggle room, obviously, with the 11-point final, but it was nice to have down the stretch, wasn't it? If, again, you followed suit. And there were some player props that we shouted out as well that I hope you rode with us on. How about going over on Jalen Williams' points plus assists, knowing that the usage was going to be high and he was going to be facilitating and distributing? Well, he only had the 4 assists, so if you played his over 4.5 assists, that did not hit. But the points plus assists, that absolutely freaking smashed. 40 points by the MVP hopeful. I realize he's still the dog in that category, and a heavy dog at that. If the Thunder win, as I believe they will, and I think they're going to win it in 6, by the way, I think the Pacers are absolutely cooked with this Tyrese Halliburton injury. Jalen Williams making his case. It's still going to be SGA. It's going to be the regular season MVP and the Western Conference Finals MVP. He's going to be an NBA Finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know what J-Dub would have to do in this decisive game, if it is the decisive game 6, in order to prevent that from happening. But this dude came on the biggest game of his career to date, on the highest stage, and put forth his best performance with that 40-point outing. He was incredible. The offense ran through him. He was awesome. But on the other side, I told you, consider strongly, and I wasn't predicting an injury, obviously, but consider strongly fading Halliburton and leaning into Siakam. The Pacers are at their best offensively, in this series anyway, when Siakam is the guy that is delivering the most internally. And they were just feeding him from the jump. We said go over on his PRA. Wasn't, too sure about the individual category in which he might potentially dominate. And that was the one that got you home. I mean, if you went over on his points, you got there as well. If you went over on PRA, the points by themselves almost got you there. He had 28 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and in only 33 minutes. Did have 6 turnovers. He wasn't perfect, but he had to pick up the slack on account of the fact that Tyrese Halliburton, dealing with that calf injury, had a scoreless opening half, finished with only 4 points in this game, went 0 for 6 shooting. He was bad. He was absolutely bad in this game, and clearly that calf is a problem. And I applaud him for the whole, if I can walk, I can play. He's going to be out there for game 6, but he just doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough, and he's going to have an MRI to see what the severity of this injury is. He's not going to miss the game, but he does not have enough to be a game breaker, a guy who can go in there and alter the outcome of this contest, unless he is purely facilitating and doing so at such a high level that guys like Turner and Siakam and Neesmith and all of these role players around them, Mathurin and Toppin and McConnell, are delivering. I don't see it. I think Oklahoma City wins. I think the Thunder win by margin. But again, we got to wait till Thursday. Major League Baseball. Everybody is in action tonight. One game is underway. It's the Marlins, surprisingly enough, leading at home 2-0 against the Phillies early on. Top 3. My money's on Philadelphia. Tough start for that one. We're going to get into more hockey with Joe Madden when she joins us next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We're going to be talking a lot of Stanley Cup Final Game 6 here on Game Time Decisions tonight because, well, what else would you want to hear about? Of all the baseball games, all the WNBA games, and there are a lot of teams, a lot of games in action, but the marquee event, the most important game, not unlike how it was the basketball game last night, it's championship season here in June. It's the hockey game tonight, where the Edmonton Oilers are trying to, for the second straight year, force a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final against the defending champion Florida Panthers. Here to help us break it down, tell you what to expect, Joe Madden, a host and analyst here on Sports Grid, on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports. Make sure you check out the Cup of Joe on social media as well. Joe, I can't imagine you are going to tell me anything other than, of course, Canada is going to represent in this contest and take Edmonton at plus money to see that Game 7. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're completely wrong. There's a ton of Canadians, firstly, on the Florida Panthers, and I do think the Florida Panthers are going to be the team to really close it out tonight here, Adam. And I hate to say it because it goes against all of my bets originally coming into this. I thought Edmonton had learned some lessons, but we're just not seeing that. Their inconsistencies and their lack of oomph out there in that last game, I just don't see a way this team can turn it around. Now, we know they've been resilient through the playoffs. They've been able to bounce back off of those losses, but I think the Florida Panthers are the hungrier team. This team is so deep from top to bottom, and you look at the goaltending issues faced here with the Edmonton Oilers, and I just cannot trust them to get things done tonight, Adam.
6 times in NHL history, a team has won a Game 6 on the road to force a Game 7, and 4 of those teams have gone on to hoist the cup, and so that's obviously what's at stake here for the Oilers. But let's, continue to talk about the Panthers here, because I think a really interesting nugget on them, and I know you love to dive into the derivative market and look for some of these, really juicy or, plus money opportunities. The Panthers, in every game in this series, have scored multiple goals in the opening period. 2+ goals first period, all 5 games. Is that something you think will happen again?
Oh, absolutely. I think that first period, the Florida Panthers love to come out and make that statement. So you can look at the over 1.5 goals if you think Edmonton is going to score as well. They're going to have to. They're going to have to give that support to Stuart Skinner because they're going back to him tonight. And I do think they should have used him in the last game. So I do think it's the right move. But you've got 2 inconsistent goaltenders, and you've got a Florida team that loves to come out hot and heavy in that first period. Now, instead of just looking at them on the puck line, because they are able to score multiple goals normally in the first period out here, you can look at them over 1.5 goals in the first period. Then it doesn't matter what Edmonton does out there. That's coming in at plus 155, Adam.
I will tell you, over 1.5 Panthers goals in the first period, if you want to take Edmonton completely out of the equation, plus 250. So it's a big number, but again, feeding into what they have been doing in general. So given that sort of shaky or inconsistent goaltending, and like you said, the return of Skinner, which makes a lot of sense for the Oilers, obviously, do you just presume that we're going to see, for the 6th time in as many games in this series, 7+ goals here tonight?
That is a hard one, Adam. And I want to say that Florida's team total in the first period has jumped up 100 points. It was plus 155 earlier in the morning. So shocking to hear you say it's plus 250 for the over 1.5. So great to see. I think it's a great bet for people to jump in on. But I'm cautious with this one. We know the Edmonton Oilers need to do a stronger job defensively. They have to give Skinner the support. But I do think they're going to have to try to score those goals. The problem is the neutral zone here. The Florida Panthers have absolutely dominated, making layers with the Edmonton Oilers struggling to get through that neutral zone. We've seen Connor McDavid absolutely rocked. He hasn't been able to break away like we've seen him in previous series versus the Florida Panthers. And I do think they're going to be able to shut him down. Now, the Edmonton Oilers lives here rolling into another game do depend on Connor McDavid to come out strong. I just don't think he's going to be able to get past them. With this being a 6.5, while all of these games have been highly to that over, I'm not sure if we get there. I'm looking at more a 4-2 game for the Florida Panthers covering that puck line. But Adam, I would be crazy to lay juice on betting an under 6.5 in this one because those empty netters will come into play.
Minus 128 to the under 6.5 on FanDuel. If you did want to bet that, I would much rather go after the plus money with the over, but that's me. And again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've hit the over in every game so far in this series. That minus 1.5 for Florida, by the way, on the game, plus 154, as Joe was talking about. So in terms of the prop market, who are you leaning into here? We've seen Brad Marchand, who is, one of the favorites to win the Conn Smythe, not the favorite, that's Sam Bennett, but Bennett has a point, I believe, in every game in this series. Marchand leads the Panthers in goals in this series. Is it more of these guys, or are you looking elsewhere?
No, I think those are the only two players that I can look at right now. Sam Bennett is too highly juiced. You're jumping on him right now to minus 160 mark. So not a market I can touch, but Brad Marchand, if he comes out as strong as he did in that last game, he has every ability to steal this from Sam Bennett, and the value you're getting on him plus 400 kind of range is definitely where you want to go. Now, I have circled Brad here for an anytime goal tonight. He's coming in up plus 230. I absolutely love Verhaeghe to really step up in this game. Verhaeghe for the anytime goal at plus 220. Now, he is on that top line with Barkov and Sam Reinhart, but on the second power play with Brad. And I think he has every opportunity of netting that one tonight. You can't go wrong with Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, or Matthew Tkachuk either for the Florida Panthers. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Kevin, or Adam, sorry, I'm so used to Kevin here on a Tuesday. But at the end of the day, when we look at that total, I know where you're looking with that over. If I was to bet anything on the total, which I did, I bet Florida's team total over 3.5. It's coming in at plus 100 because I do think we'll get 4 goals out of them. I'm staying off props here for the Edmonton Oilers just because, well, they're too highly juiced if you want to back kind of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
I shave my mustache. It's the only way that people can tell Kevin and I apart. How about a favorite bet for this game before we let you go?
You know, favorite bet, I've got to look at the straight puck line here. The Florida Panthers laying 1.5 at plus 152. And then top goal scorer will be Verhaeghe here, the Florida Panthers at plus 220.
Joe Madden, once again, is on Twitter at Joe Madden Sports, a host and analyst here on SportsGrid and a just regular contributor across the network. Pretty much anytime you turn us on, you will in all likelihood see or hear from her. Joe, thank you so much. Happy betting tonight. I hope you're wrong simply because I won a Game 7. We'll see you later.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Our thanks once again to Joe Madden. We will have a lot of Stanley Cup final talk in the second hour of the program, but we are wrapping up this opening hour, shifting gears to the hardwood, both men's and women's, because as Coach James Young on Twitter at Coach Young NJ joins me now. Coach, we got a massive WNBA slate. Just about everyone other than the Phoenix Mercury in action tonight. 12 teams, 6 games, and the first batch of them get underway in just about 5 or so minutes. We have the Sun at the Fever, Caitlin Clark. Looking to just continue her dominance since returning from the injury. Dream and Liberty, Mystics and Sky as well. We'll get going a little bit later on, I guess. Actually, it's 2 at 7, 3 at 8, 1 at 10 Eastern time is what it looks like tonight. So for these first couple of games, and we'll start with Caitlin Clark going up against the Sun. What are the expectations here in this one?
A bloodbath, probably, to be honest with you. If Indiana looked anything the way like they looked, on Saturday versus New York with Caitlin Clark, I'm going with the Fever minus 10.5 points in the first half. The Sun are a minus 49, I do believe, minus 69. Sorry, it's my phone going off. Must be recruiting stuff. I'll deal with that in a little bit. With the Sun are minus 69 in the first half, so they're not very good at them in the first half. I'm concerned the line is too high, so I think it's better to get in and out. So I do like the Fever minus 10.5 in the first half. 2 player props, 1 on each side. 1 the Pride of Manasquan, New Jersey. My little buddy Marina Mabry over 7.5 rebounds plus assists over 3 straight games. Ball is in their hands. A lot of points in this game, so I think a lot of extra possessions. Also with Hull, obviously Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, a lot of 3-point shots, long rebounds. That's why I look for Marina Mabry over 7.5 rebounds plus assists. Aaliyah Boston over 13.5 points. Adam, under 4 straight. Struggled a little bit against the game with the Liberty, but if I'm Stephanie White, I want people to understand this. I think it's important that I get this girl going. That pick and roll, pick and pop that she had with Caitlin Clark last year was dynamite. I think you get more of that to kind of get Aaliyah going after going under 4 straight. I wouldn't mind if you went over to Caitlin Clark assists. I just get nervous about the points and taking anything full game with Caitlin because, yes, she can go off, but she can dime people up the entire game, and she may not even be playing in the fourth quarter.
Great point. Again, this spread has bloated from 15 at open to 18.5 at some places. You saw the 18 on the screen. Those are still out there as well. That other game that we have, the Dream and the Liberty, the spread is not as massive. It is actually stayed pretty consistent mostly from it opened at 8.5. We're still looking at 8.5s out there with the Liberty at home favored here in this one. What's the outlook?
I like over 162.5 in the matchup. If you look at it, Adam, number 1 and 3 in offensive points per game, 1 and 3 in offensive rating, 2 and 4 in assist percentage, 2 and 3 in assist turnover percentage, and Liberty number 1 in pace, true shooting percentage, and effective field goal percentage. I know the Liberty's good defensively, but if you look closely, the 2 games versus Indiana, the game versus the Las Vegas Aces, 78 points or more to give it up in all 3 of those contests. Dream could score with Ryan Howard and obviously in the front court, backcourt with Alicia Gray in the front court with both BG and Brianna Jones. So I'm going to go over 162.5. And because of that double big lineup, I'm going to double J. Jonquel Jones. Double, even money, minus 105 shop around. You may be able to get yourself a good deal. 13.9, 10.3 so far this year. Number 2 in the WNBA in rebounding. You got Brianna Jones, 6'5", BG, 6'8". Have to keep them off the boards. 5 out of 7 games, Adam, she's gone to a double-double, but one of the games was the game against the Mystics in which she got 3 points and 4 rebounds in the first quarter and was out with injury with about 4 minutes left to go. The most critical piece, may not be the best player or the most popular player, but the most critical player for the Liberty, that's Double J, Jonquel Jones. She gets a double-double tonight.
I feel like she has been something of a betting afterthought in the WNBA community this year. What do you attribute that to? Is it just, other stars around the league, or have the books just properly adjusted to her and the numbers are always just too efficient?
Well, I think it's a number of fact of with Jonquel, it's about consistency. That's what I've heard from people. But when they say when she's rolling, there's no better center in the W. Maybe with Asia Wilson, but Asia Wilson in the feature, I'm calling more 4s than regular 5s. Double J, 6'5", inside and out score. She should be able to get that double-double tonight, Adam.
Again, 6 games on the women's hardwood tonight. We have talked about 2 of them with Coach James Young, so we have 4 more to get to that will get started in the next hour or so. And oh, by the way, how about the NBA Finals? A review of the
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things that both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hour 2 Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. A guy who is proving that bet by bet, moment by moment, all of the analysis that he gave you last night, talking about the Game 5 of the NBA Finals. We're going to get into Game 6, looking ahead to that, recapping Game 5, all the good stuff. But right now, talking a little WNBA with the coach, James Young, on Twitter at CoachYoungNJ. So, Coach, we were just chatting about the 2 games to get started here momentarily. Of course, the Dream and the Liberty, the Sun and Fever with that massive spread. Fortunately, that is the most monstrous one of the night. But coming up in an hour, we have the Mystics and the Sky, a more modest 4.5 point favorite. The Mystics on the road against Angel Reese, she who has trademarked the term me-bounds instead of rebounds. Me-bounds. There's no ego there. What are we thinking tonight?
Well, listen, she could say all the me-bounds that she wants, but let's be honest. If it weren't for HVL and her 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist, they don't even win that game. So let's pump our brakes a little bit there. I'm kind of thinking about this game here, and it's going to be a really close game. I don't have a side that I like, but I'm really intrigued by these 2 rookies that are healthy. Georgia Morey, the point guard out of Kentucky, out for the year, tore ACL like the first day of training camp. But when you look at these 2 rookies, Sonia Citron and Kiki Iriafen, to me, I'm looking at Iriafen because of the importance of keeping Cardozo and Angel Reese off the boards. Kiki Iriafen over 7.5 rebounds at minus 130. She should be able to go up and over because the other part is both Cardozo and Reese are always around the basket. Kiki should get over 7.5 rebounds tonight.
Coach, the Lynx were 8.5 point favorites at open against the Aces. That is now 13.5, depending on where you do your shopping in favor of Minnesota. That number get too big for you?
Yeah, I'm not touching that number. I'm not touching that number at all. And to me, you're looking at the fact of just kind of peeking through. Obviously we know that no Asia Wilson in the lineup tonight. You could probably say you could go to Jackie Young to go 20-plus points at minus 114 would be the one bona fide score. But Minnesota typically is one of the best defensive teams in the league. So this is a stay away for me. If anything, if you could find team totals over in the first half, maybe go there. But it's crazy. Like, you're waiting for the Aces to wake up. They were down big, gave up a huge third quarter run to Dallas, came back and won that game 88-84. And it's a close game. Maybe I jump on Minnesota late, but if I don't do anything with this game, maybe Minnesota first half. But I'm just kind of nervous because if you look at Minnesota's record this year, great record. Who they played, not great. One team they played that was pretty good, Seattle, beat them.
I mentioned how it seems like the betting community in the WNBA is soured a little bit on your girl, JJ, Jonquel Jones. The betting community in the WNBA has a crush. The darlings are the Valkyries, the first-year Golden State squad. I mean, you probably love this team like everybody else. They are dogs, slight dogs in Dallas tonight. But it's looking at pretty universally plus 3.5 at this point in time. The Valkyries continue to take the league by storm.
They've done such a great job, Adam, and Dallas is just not good, but they obviously almost won that game versus Las Vegas. Adam, I think one of my better places, I'm taking the over 164.5. Over 2 of the last 3 games for the Valkyries. And listen, if you peel back, there's 2 different versions of the Dallas Wings. There's a Dallas Wings when Paige Beckers plays, and there's a Dallas Wings when she doesn't play. 4 out of 5 games, they've gone over 164.5, including that 172 versus the Aces. Anytime I get a close game, Adam, especially in the WNBA, stop clock, advance the ball, 5 foul shoot, double bonus. I think there could be the game tight, extra possessions. Give me over 164.5 in Valkyries versus Wings tonight.
Last one of the night, Coach, and it's about 3 hours away at this point in time. Open to damn near a pick'em. The Storm and the Sparks, not the case anymore. You have the Storm, who were 1.5-point dogs, now sitting at 8.5, 9-point favorites in this game in LA. What's the outlook?
Well, the outlook is you're going to look, if anything, you're going to go with the Storm minus the 8.5 points, because obviously when you look at the spread and see, an 8.5-point spread now, that means that there are going to be major players that are out, and you can just kind of dig and look, and you can look right away. The one person I know is out looks like Kelsey Plum, because I don't see any props for her. So I think this game is, if you do anything, you go minus the points. The amount of shot volume that she creates is kind of important. If you want to go with anyone, maybe go Rickea Jackson over 15.5. It don't matter if Kelsey Plum is there or Kelsey Plum is not. Rickea Jackson, she go get hers. So Rickea Jackson over 15.5 points, maybe go minus 8.5 with the Seattle Storm on the road. A really, really good team with those 2 bigs of Megaber and Awubake, Gabby Williams, and obviously Malanga coming off the bench, and Skylar Diggins in the backcourt.
All right, that's the WNBA slate. Again, there are 12 teams in action tonight, everyone other than the Phoenix Mercury in the league. NBA, men's side of things, NBA Finals, Coach. And look, if people were along for the ride when you joined me on this show for about a half hour yesterday, they probably made some money, because we were talking about live betting the Pacers, where the buy point was, as well as potentially OKC on the other side. That came to fruition. We were talking up Pascal Siakam. We were talking up Jalen Williams. We were talking up TJ McConnell, others. Overs across the board, depending on how you played them. If you followed the way we talked about them, again, you cashed in. The question is, though, with this Tyrese Halliburton calf injury that requires an MRI now to see the severity of it, are the Pacers as dead in Indiana on Thursday to you as they are to me?
I think they're a wounded animal, but sometimes a wounded animal is a dangerous animal. So obviously the spread went from 4.5 to 6.5. Obviously, with the thought of that Tyrese Halliburton is compromised. I'm going to give it to you easy like this, Adam. And you see the total was at 224. It's dropped to 222.5. It's pretty simple, folks. If the Pacers are going to win this game, they're going to have to keep the score down. They're going to have to keep it in the half court, even if Tyrese Halliburton is there, because it doesn't work for him to go up and down the court. So to me, if you like the Pacers, I would take the Pacers plus the points, and I would go under the game. If you like Oklahoma City, I would lay the points, but then I would just do the team total over and think that they just run them completely out of the gym. The way that Jalen Williams has looked, I mean, Lord have mercy, that 40 piece. I mean, and the fact that a lot of it got into transition, I think that's a big thing. And we take away from this matchup is obviously is the ability of Jalen Williams to score in all three levels, right? He had a really tough fadeaway on top of Naismith. There was the drives to the basket, backdoor cuts, alley, fast break dunks, and then a 3-point shot. If he gives you 40 points, it's over because SGA is going to give you at least 25. That's 65. And the rest of the guys can give you another 40 points easily. So to me, they got to do a better job defensively. If you look at Indiana, probably lean on Pascal Siakam, and then either Aaron Naismith or Benedict Mathurin. If you get no Tyrese Halliburton, you'll move McConnell to the point that TJ's got to be the ball distributor and pass the ball, go under the 10.5 with him, sprinkle the points around to other players. But we have to see if Tyrese plays or not on Thursday night.
Well, for better or worse, we got plenty of time to preview this game because, again, it's not until Thursday. Oh, my goodness. We got to wait. Like to have that thing already. James Young, again, the coach. He's on Twitter at CoachYoungNJ. Coach, thank you so much.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Our thanks to Coach James Young. A lot of good NBA and WNBA talk. Again, massive slate on the hardwood tonight for the WNBA. A couple of those games underway. We got 4 more starting over the course of the evening. A lot more baseball, though plenty of the Major League Baseball slate with every MLB team in action tonight underway as well. What we don't have for just a little while, we're biting our nails. We're waiting for this game to start. Hockey, we got the Stanley Cup final, Game 6, Can Edmonton force things to a Game 7 back home? That's what we're waiting for. Is Florida going to win this thing on home ice for the second straight year? Let us bring in Jared Hochman, content manager over at Covers on Twitter at JLHawk. Going to hang out with us for a couple of segments. Jared, good to see you. How are you?
Doing good. And like you said, excited for this game. I mean, it could end tonight. You're looking for Edmonton to try and show a little life after a tough game 5. Seems a little familiar. We've kind of said this. A team, 2-2, got smoked at home, trying to, come back on the road now. Leafs did it 2 series ago. Can Edmonton do it tonight? Well, we'll kind of find out in a bit.
Well, in terms of betting it, should we bet on the response? Because again, Edmonton at Florida, you can get plus money in the vicinity of plus 120 on the Oilers to answer and to prolong this series, which, unless you're a Panthers fan, obviously, most hockey fans are rooting for. What's better than a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, let alone the Stanley Cup final? But do the Oilers have what it takes, especially going back to Stuart Skinner in net?
Listen, Adam, I think they have what it takes, but unfortunately, I'm a Canadian. I want Game 7. I don't think we're going to see it tonight. I think the Panthers have really tilted the ice over the past 3 games. Game 5 was such a dominating effort. Their depth, at forward and defense and that goaltending advantage. As you said, Edmonton's flip-flopping back and forth with goalies every game. It's finally taken over, and I think we're going to see a repeat winner tonight. Now, the Panthers' money line price, you can get it anywhere from minus 150 to minus 165, but I kind of like the Panthers to win in regulation on the 3A money line. We can drop that down, as low as even money in some books, and I think that's also a fantastic value on the better team. Get them at plus money there. So sorry, Oilers fans. Sorry, Canada. All my compatriots. But I think it ends here tonight and Florida wins back to back.
Can we continue to root for entertainment, though? And by that, I mean goals. We have seen the over 6.5 hit in every game so far in this series. And the books are still daring us to bet it, giving us plus money on it tonight. Would you go over again?
I absolutely go over to get out of 100%. I think, you're going to, even last game was low event. There's 40 shots total. We still got 7 goals there. I have a couple props I actually like tonight, hoping, as you said, that we get a little bit of offense. So on the Florida side, I'm looking at Evan Rodriguez to get a point and Brad Marchand. Rodriguez is even money. He's got points in 8 of his last 11 games. But the big thing is he's skating alongside Sam Bennett and Matt Tkachuk in that second line. They're around minus 140 and minus 200 each. So you're going to get pretty good value here for the even strength exposure with those guys, especially when I look at matchups. Florida's top line, probably going to see a lot of McDavid. So I'm looking for the Rodriguez, Bennett, Tkachuk line to do a little damage. And then for Marchand, Adam, what can we say? He keeps cooking around. He's got 6 goals in the series, points in 5 of his last 6 games. The trio of him, Anton Lundell, and Eetu Luostarinen continue to wreak havoc against opposing third lines. I think they'll be able to do that tonight. So I think those guys for Florida are showing some really great value. On the Edmonton side, I'm looking at Connor McDavid. You see on the screen there to get 4+ shots. Listen, he struggled to score in Florida. We know this. It's been a thing. And I'm not enthusiastic about him finding the score sheet, but I think he's going to give it everything he's got. He's the best player in the world. His teams has got their back against the wall. I'm really expecting him to get a lot more aggressive, put a lot more pucks on net, and that starts with their star and leader. Desperation is a powerful tool, right? And I think he's going to shoot more. I'm also, if you want to get kind of spicy here, I'm sprinkling on the shot ladder, so a half unit on 5+ shots and 6+ shots. Get those around plus 250 and plus 500. So I think we're going to see, Edmonton star players going to do their best to make this game happen and make a win happen. I don't think will ultimately prevail, but I think we should see a lot of offense again, Adam.
Let's go back to Brad Marchand because, talk about an incredible acquisition, obviously, for the Panthers. Gave up a first-round pick or what turned into a first-round pick in getting him. But, man, he has been instrumental in Florida's success. He's still second behind Sam Bennett as far as the Conn Smythe odds board goes. And it's always tricky when it comes to MVP voting. And obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, this isn't specifically finals MVP, it's entire playoff MVP. But tricky because there's no algorithm involved, Jared. This is, humans voting on this, obviously. What would it take? You already mentioned, while Bennett has a point in every game in this series, Marchand leads the team with 6 goals. What would it take if you're right, and I hope you're not because I want a Game 7, but if you're right and this thing ends tonight, what would it take for Marchand to to leapfrog Bennett and win the MVP?
Adam, I think it's another signature moment, another big moment, whether it's, a shorthanded goal or a crazy, dangle, or, I think he had a beautiful snipe a couple of games ago. It's going to need for him to really be the number 1 star of this game and Bennett to kind of be quiet. Now, the potential is there. They different lines. Bennett's on the second, Marchand's on the third. But like you said, it's for the whole playoffs. So, Bennett's kind of body of work is a little bit better, but it's also a narrative-driven award. And again, if Marchand has a big game, he has that, just a signature moment that really kind of ups the recency bias. I think there is some value for him to pass there, but it's going to be really tough, and he's going to have to be a lot more noticeably better than Bennett in tonight's game.
Of all the plays that you gave us here, obviously there are a bunch on both sides. Do you have an absolute favorite for people out there watching, listening, saying, look, I can't sprinkle the board that much. I'm already invested in all these other places, but I want to follow Jared on something.
It would be the McDavid. I think the McDavid shots is going to be the one. I think he's going to come out just firing, doing everything to win. But I know I have one more there I didn't talk about yet. We see it at the bottom there. A little goalie parlay, in case you want to get a little fun there. It's Stuart Skinner over 25.5 saves, plus Sergei Bobrovsky over 28 or 27.5 saves, at plus 250. Listen, Game 5 was the first time all series that neither team hit 30 shots. We're expecting offense tonight. I expect offense. Edmonton's going to open it up a bit more to get more pucks in net. That's going to leave them a little vulnerable for shots against them. I think you're going to see a lot of high pace, high action. So I think you could also see both goalies get a lot of work. As long as Stuart Skinner doesn't get pulled, we're good. But let's look for a little action there too. So McDavid's a favorite play. Goalies, if you want to have a little bit more fun.
Jared Hockman from Cover is going to stick around, talk a little baseball with us in the next segment. Just before we go to break, let you know where we stand on the MLB scoreboard right now. Naturally, the games that are underway are early, but end of 4, Marlins leading 2-1 at home against the Phillies. Not great for my Phillies first 5 right now. Pirates trailing Detroit 2-1. That's only in the 3rd. Rockies and Nats even at 1, 3rd inning. Other games are scoreless.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are back with Jared Hockman from Covers. A lot of hockey talk in the rear view, a lot more of it coming up in a little bit with our friend George Kurtz. Right now, though, we're going to talk a little baseball. Again, plenty of games that are in progress. I mentioned just before the break there were a bunch of games that were scoreless. That has changed in Toronto. The Blue Jays, of course, Toronto. This is perfect for you, Jared. The Blue Jays up 1-0 at the end of 1 against the Diamondbacks. Before we get to some of the games that are in front of us, though, do want to go back to last night where the Dodgers started Shohei Ohtani. kind of. I mean, he literally did start, but it was an opener situation. We knew he wasn't going to pitch long. It was a debate across SportsGrid all day long. Is it going to be 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings? Will he go through the lineup a complete time? How are we going to shape this thing? I figured it was going to be pretty quick. And the pitch count, sort of drove us home on that because of the early struggles. He ends up going just the 1 inning. You see the stats there. Barely through. It was high 20s, almost 30 pitches, allowed a run, couple of hits, the walk in there as well. Wasn't a great pitching debut, but by the same token, Shohei hadn't pitched in almost 2 full calendar years. So, and there was no minor league ramp up. This was just a dust the rust off kind of situation. What did you think, and what do you think it means going forward?
Well, I mean, first of all, like you said, no minor league ramp up to just like show up after 2 years and it's like effortlessly fire 100 miles an hour on some of those fastballs there. It's incredibly impressive, like just casually hitting triple digits. But like you said, you saw a couple things. The control and the command wasn't quite there. I know on the announcing broadcast, they kept speaking to how on the glove side, he couldn't quite catch the corner. His curveballs, breaking himself, looked good. I didn't really see anything off speed, and that kind of hurt him a little bit. He got a lot of 2-strike counts, couldn't put anyone away was the biggest problem there. But again, for not pitching for 2 years and then kind of doing that against a good lineup to start with, very, very impressive. They're going to go slow with it. I'm not going to lie, I might have bought into the hype and did a little bit of the over strikeouts. They could even kind of blow them away. So I took a little bit of a pain there, but it was really great to see him back. I mean, the game is so much more fun when he's doing both of those things. And if this is just the start of it, I think, there's a lot of potential for him to kind of get back to what he was as, an elite dominant pitcher in the National League.
Listen, I was talking on the show last night asking if we should be sprinkling his Cy Young odds for this year. So you're not the only one that bought into the hype, my friend. We have games coming up later on the diamond. Orioles, Rays, Cardinals, White Sox, Royals, Rangers, Brewers, Cubs, Red Sox, Mariners, Guardians, Giants, Astros, Athletics, Padres, Dodgers. These are all games, basically half the league that is yet to get underway. So we have a lot in front of us, obviously. I could pepper the board with you, but why don't I defer to you in this short segment? What stands out to you as the best opportunity to invest?
I think looking at the 2 latest games out in there, so we're going to start with the Oakland-Houston. I think you're going to get a little bit of offense there. And I'm actually looking at Lawrence Butler from the Athletics to go over his 2+ total bases, get that around plus 105 even money. Again, it's anytime you're in Sacramento in that little barn, offense is always going to be on the board and on the table. Going against Jason Alexander, he's pretty good control pitcher, but his stuff that you can put some bats on balls and he does pitch the contact a bit. I think for Butler, he's kind of after a slow start, picked it up, a little bit of speed power there. I think he can get a couple singles, slap a double in the gap. So I'm looking at him to do a little bit of damage. If you want to go big, I'm also looking the other side, Jeremy Pena to hit a home run. You get that around like 6-1. Yeah, facing off against, I think it's JP Sears pitching a lefty there. He does well against lefties. Again, Sacramento, balls fly out of there. Look a little bit of offense. And then I'm also looking at the late game, the Dodgers against the Padres. We saw 9 runs last night. I think you can go with the over there again. I believe right now, Adam, we have Randy Vasquez against the infamous TBD. Still set the pitch right now for the Dodgers. We saw Ben Casparius did the bulk last night, so I'm not sure who they're going to go with. But I think everyone is kind of in play here. So Tatis, Machado, Bogarts a little bit. You got and Teoscar Hernandez kind of in a good spot. I think his RBI is around 165. So we'll be looking at that. So probably just looking at some of those key players at the top of the lineups for both teams to really do a little bit of damage against what is going to be either bullpen game, bottom of the lineup hitters. So out on the West Coast, a lot of offense from both of those games. Look at some of the star players because they're offering plus money value there. And when we get star players at good prices, I like to take that.
Looks like it's going to be Jack Dreyer for the Dodgers in that contest. Sub-3 ERA, 2-2 on the year. Staying out west before we let you go, though, we have the Giants hosting the Guardians. Rafael Devers out there. He met with the San Francisco media, said he's here to do whatever the team wants from him. What a dink. Total opposite of everything he was saying during his final days there in Boston. But what should we expect from him and these Giants with Robbie Ray on the hill? 8-1, sub-3 ERA.
I think Robbie Ray will have a good little outing there. The Guardians aren't a great offense. I think Devers is going to start off with a bang because he's basically said F you to Boston already. As a Yankees fan, I love it. Yeah. But yeah, I think he's free of the spite and hate, and he's going to go mash now.
Yankees fan in Toronto. I didn't know that was allowed. Jared Hockman from Cover.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, you know Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's get back to hockey talk, and maybe if we have time, mix in a little bit of baseball with a SportsGrid host and analyst, a regular across SportsGrid programming, George Kurtz. Kurtzy, he is on Twitter at George Kurtz. How are you, bud?
Doing well, Adam. Doing well. A little rainy here in the Northeast, right? Some rain delays throughout baseball here, but we are set for hockey here. I want to see Game 7, Adam. I really want to see a Game 7.
Well, we had Joe Madden on, and we had Jared Hockman on, both of whom, coincidentally enough, reside in different parts of Canada. And neither one believes that the Canadian entrant in this Stanley Cup final, the Edmonton Oilers, is going to force that Game 7. I bet on Edmonton tonight. I'd be willing to bet without even asking that you bet on Edmonton tonight. Are we going to get that Game 7?
I really hope so. All right, because I have no rooting interest in this game as far as fandom is concerned. It's all about where my money is. I do want to see a Game 7. Listen, everybody knows by now that I'm on Edmonton in 6. That's obviously not going to happen. Do I think Edmonton's going to win the Cup? No, I don't know if they can beat Florida twice. Back-to-back games here. I think they'll be extremely tough here. But yeah, I took them tonight. Even though, Adam, I'm the first person to tell you, my head's telling me, I think Florida's going to win tonight. That's what my head's been telling me all day here. But I took my normal bets here. So I took Everton. I took the over here. I changed one thing up here. Instead of taking McDavid 2+ points, I did take McDavid anytime goal, Draisaitl anytime goal, Corey Perry at anytime goal, which is what I've been doing every game anyway, and Brad Marchand anytime goal here. So we're having some fun tonight here. Like I said, I want there to be a Game 7. I'm betting that there will be a Game 7. But the noggin's telling me it's not going to happen here. That's going to end tonight.
Head versus heart, wallet mixed in. There are a lot of different factors at play here, obviously. What made you change your strategy on McDavid, though?
Just because I think he has to take the game over. I think he can't look for the dipsy doodle play anymore. The Sports Center top 10 play, right? He's going to have to shoot. When you get a chance, shoot the puck, put it on net. Even if you don't score, go for those rebounds. All right. I think Edmonton has to realize you got to win back-to-back games here. You're not up 3-2. You can still play around here. You have to win this game. McDavid almost has to take it over. He has to be that guy, right? You want to cement your legacy as one of the best players ever. You need to win a cup. It may sound silly here, but you need to win a cup. You didn't win last year. You're going to lose again this year. Yeah, it wouldn't be all that great there. I think he knows that. He wants to take it over. I think he scores tonight.
Yeah, I keep going back to the Four Nations, and we haven't talked about this in a while. But one thing that I remember, George, and I'm curious if you do too, some of the post-game interviews after that Canadian team won, and there were a lot of the guys who have won a Stanley Cup, saying this is just like winning a Stanley Cup. This is incredible. Really, just inflating the importance of this, couple-week tournament in the middle of the hockey season. Whereas, then it came to McDavid, who obviously was fresh off that 7-game series loss against these Panthers last year, and he was like, it's cool, like it's not that big a deal, because he hasn't won the cup. He wants the real prize. And so yeah, you have to believe, and this is why you might go over on his shot attempts too. You have to believe there's going to be some urgency, especially from guys like him, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, that top line.
I agree with you. Listen, I like his shot attempts as well here. Bouchard, by the way, is another player whose shot attempts I'm on tonight as well here. Listen, the Four Nations was fun. I enjoyed it immensely here. I bet on Canada. Sorry, Team USA. I bet on Canada to win there, so I was very happy with the outcome there. But it's not the same as the Stanley Cup. I mean, the name itself tells you it's not the same as the Stanley Cup. It was the Four Nations. Not the four best nations, just the Four Nations. Team Russia didn't play.
Right.
All right, they're not allowed to play in any of this. So don't tell me it was the greatest thing. It wasn't. All right, the Stanley Cup is more important here. Olympics, we can make an argument here. That could be different. But once again, Russia's not playing the Olympics in Italy next year either. So same problem there. It's just not the same. If you're not going to include the Russians, you can't tell me the best players were playing here. Stanley Cup, theoretically, it is the best two teams here. So yeah, it means something. You can't tell me it doesn't here. Like I said, I think so. I don't think it's going to be a blowout game one way or the other. I think it's going to be a close contest. I think it's going to be like a 4-3, 5-3 score here. So I'm hoping, obviously, it's Edmonton is where you get 5 goals. Empty nets could come into play as well here. I think McDavid will have scored before then. Draisaitl probably looking more for a power play goal from him. And Corey Perry's, he's just the guy who sweeps in the garbage in front of the net here because everyone's worried about McDavid and Draisaitl, especially on the power play here. So I'm hoping for a game that opens up a little bit because if it's a 2-1 score at the end here, I'm probably going to be very disappointed.
Well, we've hit the over in every game of the series so far. As you said, you're on the over again. So am I. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've said that multiple times during this show. I mean, if you just consistently blind bet the over, you're making money here during this series, hand over fist, because they keep giving us plus money on it as well, including again tonight when I think it's plus 104 on FanDuel as it sits right now. But what does it look like? Because we got there via a miracle in the last game, 5 third-period goals. And that's after the Panthers had scored twice in the opening period for, again, the 5th straight game. So what's the distribution? How's that play itself out?
It's funny you should mention last game because, as bettors, we always are, when we get screwed, right? When I didn't get this, I didn't get that. I had the same 5 bets last game. The bets I've made every bet. The McDavid 2 points, the Draisaitl anytime goal, the Perry anytime goal, over at Edmonton. And I was losing on all of them until the last couple of minutes. You said we got the over, which is a miracle, and Corey Perry scored an anytime goal. So I got the miracle from God. All right, but we don't remember that though. We only remember when we get screwed, not when we got
Right.
lucky there. I mean, Skinner is the wild card tonight. How's he going to play? I don't know. I don't think I think anybody truly knows here. I think he'll be good. I do. I think Bobrovsky will likely be better, but that's fine. I expect Bobrovsky to be better than Skinner. He's a better goaltender. The Oilers have come out very well of these games in the first period. They come out, they skate well, my house on fire. But it seems to me, Adam, when they don't score, Bobrovsky makes that big save, they don't get that 1-0 lead, a little bit of the air goes out of the balloon here. And then all of a sudden, Florida does score, and they're chasing the game. And then they're chasing the game, until they can catch back up here. And listen, it's silly to say here, but it would be nice for Edmonton to score first, take some of that pressure off. But that's true in every game. In every game, you want to score first here. But yeah, I do believe I'm going to be sweating it out as far as these bets are concerned. If Florida scores first, I'm like, oh, this may be another long night here. So I would really like to see Edmonton score first here. And by the way, the officials are also going to have something to say here. Are they calling it close? Are they letting them play? They're calling one side more than the other. I don't like to go with the conspiracy theories here, but Florida has gotten the benefit of these calls, but that also might be better because they're better at hiding it. Their style of play, they're better at hiding the dirty stuff a little bit better than Edmonton. Edmonton's more wide in the open where they're leaving the officials no choice but to call it.
So you mentioned you're on Brad Marchand to score a goal in this one. He leads the Panthers with 6 goals in this series. you can still get some value, not as much as there was, but some value on him to win the Conn Smythe. Sam Bennett is the favorite, vicinity of minus 150, thereabouts anyway. Marchand is right around 4-1. Brady and I were talking about it over the weekend, live watching that last game. He had scored his first goal. We started peering in on it, and he was 9-1 at that point. Scores another goal, and he gets to 4-1. Got down to around plus 350. It bounced back up to where it sits right now. What's it take for him to win this award here?
I mean, listen, it's all about Bennett, Marchand, and Bobrovsky, right? If they win tonight, it's going to be one of those three guys here. I still think Bobrovsky, if they have a shutout tonight, I think he wins it. Right? He had 2 goals in Game 5, shutout in Game 6, or maybe even 1 goal tonight. I think he'd have a shot at it. Marchand, by the way, is just everyone's talking about him. Everyone's talking about him. He has a goal, 2 goals tonight, like he did in Game 5, or God forbid, an overtime goal. He's going to win this. He's just more of a name guy than Sam Bennett. All right. Bennett probably does deserve it more. Remember, this is the Conn Smythe. Technically, it's a playoff award, not the finals award. Sure. So Bennett probably will deserve it more. But if he goes scoreless tonight and Marchand has a big game, I think that all the pub is going to be with Brad Marchand in a trade. How it's the best trade ever at the trade deadline for a Stanley Cup team. I think Marchand would steal it.
Well, it's not like it hasn't been a monster playoff. He was incredible against the Toronto Maple Leafs, Marchand as well. So, just something to factor in. All right, we got you for like 30 more seconds. Do you have a favorite play on the diamond tonight?
Oh, I took the Yankees under. Yankees scored 5 runs in, well, I think it's now 51 innings. They're not scoring. Bet against the Yankees right now. They do this every year where they slump for 2 or 3 weeks. They're in the middle of it.
George Kurtz, he's on Twitter, at George Kurtz. Of course, will be just continuing to throw money at this hockey game as he sits there watching it play out. Hopefully we get a Game 7, not only for his wallet, but for our entertainment. Sharapan next.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Well, it's not the Met Gala, but it always feels like a fashion show when Dave Sharapan stops by, and he is here hanging out with us for the next little while. Comes up next with Scott Wetzel on In-Game Live Game Day. Sharapan dressed to support the Milwaukee Brewers tonight, who are in Chicago against the Cubs. Why? What is it about this game that has you of all the teams that I mean, there are 30 baseball teams. I don't know if you have any WNBA garb, but you got a dozen of them in action tonight. You have got the Stanley Cup Final Game 6. Why the Brew Crew?
Dating back to May 25th, Brewers have won 14 of their last 20. Only the Rays, 14-6, have a better record in Major League Baseball over that span. The rotation for Milwaukee in that 20 games, 2.74 ERA. They're a dog. That's a value play. We're always looking for value, and maybe a little play against the Cubs every once in a while. But, yeah, it was between this, believe it or not, and the White Sox. I really was going to come on with the White Sox stuff. Not many people doing that these days, but that game as well. I got a great little stat here for that one. The Cardinals have lost 10 of 14 games in June. There's only 2 teams worse than that in the major leagues, Kansas City Royals and, the Washington Nationals. We know we're really not supposed to besmirch the Washington Nationals very much here on this show.
This is back-to-back guests that are dumping on the Nats. Poor Sam.
Didn't mean to. Yeah, sorry, Sam.
So, it's funny you bring up the White Sox, and I haven't talked about them on the show because we've been mainly focused on hockey, and we'll talk a little, pucks with you as well coming up here in a second. But this game is underway. The White Sox at home against the Cardinals. Cardinals top 1. It's no score. They got a man on first with 1 out. So you'll get an even better number on what I'm about to say. I like Sam Smith and the White Sox first 5 tonight. I think it's a solid play. I wouldn't play the full game. I don't trust that bullpen. But I would take the first 5 with the White Sox, and now there are 2 men aboard. You'll get an even better number on that live.
I like that as well. And if you want to accentuate that play, Liberatore has lost each of his last 3 starts versus the Jays, Royals, and Rangers, allowing 17 runs, 16 of them earned in that time, 14 combined innings. That's 10.29 ERA. And then you got Smith. Won each of his last 2 starts versus the Astros and the Tigers. He only allowed 1 run in 11 1/3. So I think you're on the right side. I understand the hesitation on just using the first 5 because of the bullpen. So that makes sense. But, yeah, I like the White Sox tonight. I'm not afraid to even say it. We're saying it right here on SportsGrid together, Adam. So there you go.
Dave, next hour, we got this hockey game getting underway. Could be the last one. I hope it's not, but could be the last one of the season. Game 6 in Florida, Panthers and Oilers. Florida trying to win the Cup for the 2nd straight year on home ice against those very same Oilers, led, of course, by the reigning Conn Smythe winner, even in a loss, Connor McDavid. Now, we have had 3 guests on, Joe Madden, Jared Hochman, George Kurtz. All 3 of them said that they believe the Panthers are going to win this game. Only one, Kurtz, is invested in the Oilers. His money's rooting for Edmonton, but in his head, he still thinks it's Florida. Where do you come down on this game?
I like Florida. I said Florida in 6 or 7 before the series, so we'll stick to that. If Edmonton can score first, get a multiple goal lead, they can win this hockey game and still win the Stanley Cup because them at home winning Game 7, they're going to be favored. Small, it'll be minus 120 or minus 125. But from what I've seen, especially what I saw the last game, Adam, the hardest thing we're going to have to figure out tonight is who's going to win the Conn Smythe. Not whether Florida wins or not. I think Florida's going to win. I think they're going to win by multiple goals. There's going to be an empty netter or 2. The way this thing's going to go. I hope Edmonton gives it everything they got. And, boy, it would be glorious to get the 4th overtime game in a 6-game series. But seems more fairy tale than anything.
George said and has said multiple times over the last couple of days that he still thinks, because you brought up the Conn Smythe, that there is value in Sergei Bobrovsky, who, when we first started talking about this, the number was insane. It was 120-1. After that last game, you still could have invested in Bobrovsky to win the MVP of the postseason here in the NHL. No games have been played. It's just more people talking about it, and the line has moved dramatically. You're looking at it on the screen there, 75-1. But he said he still thinks, if Bobrovsky goes out and has a shutout tonight, he could still win this thing. Do you think it's worth a sprinkle?
Nope, I don't. I mean, I really don't. The number's high for a reason, and it's to entice bets on him. From the book's perspective, I'd love you to come in and bet Bobrovsky tonight to win. Now, if he gets a shutout tonight, will he get a vote or two? Probably will maybe sway some votes, but I don't think he'll have enough push and momentum from people that have probably already made up their mind that it's either Bennett or Marchand. I don't see anyone else winning it for Florida. It's one of those two. And I like the favorite. So the only other value is if you like Edmonton,
right,
you better grab a Draisaitl or McDavid ticket, one or the other. And personally, if you had to decide between the two, Adam, I would decide Draisaitl. How about you?
Same. He's the one who's got multiple overtime winners here in this series, and McDavid won it last year, which shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. And obviously, if he goes crazy over the next two games, voters wouldn't have a choice. But there is a little bit of recency bias there when it's humans making these decisions. We see it in voting across all sports every single year. And so I agree with you. Again, if McDavid has whatever, 4 goals and 3 assists over the next 2 games, and Draisaitl has 1 goal and 4 assists, then it's a pretty easy decision to make, I would think. But Draisaitl has really shined in some of the big moments. We're gonna have more from Sharapan coming up in a little bit, but I do want to mention Sam Smith got out of that jam. So your number's not nearly as good. No score, going bottom 1 in the Windy City there, and the White Sox coming to bat. That first 5 still very, very live there. White Sox just need to avoid getting in their own way like they did with that top of the first error. More with Dave when we come back.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, who had such a good training camp last year, and it looked like he was pretty good, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, ended up going down for the full year. The Vikings are still obviously committed to him.
They knew that McCarthy was going to be available at some point in June. And McCarthy actually went on record last week and confirmed 2 weeks ago he was cleared medically. He did work last week. And he's going to be their starter.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Couple more minutes here with Dave Sharapan, who once again follows this program with Scott Wetzel in Game Live Game Day coming up next here on the grid for a couple hours. So go nowhere. Dave talked a little hockey, a little bit of baseball. Didn't even reflect upon Shohei Ohtani's performance last night. First one on the mound after we had so much talk about that yesterday. I don't want to waste the time on it now, though. We don't have you long. Basketball. Okay. Thunder go out. we talked about the in-game pouncing on the Pacers, wound up coming to fruition, even though Thunder did win by margin anyway, won by 11. So we got to wait till Thursday here for Game 6, which I believe is going to be the final game of the NBA Finals, in large part because of that Tyrese Halliburton calf injury. Dude just can't play. It looked terrible in that game last night. I don't think it's going to look any better after a couple days rest. Do you give Indy a shot at home of forcing a Game 7?
Nope. I don't really think they have to be their best and have to be their healthiest and have to play their best on top of all of that. And without him, no. I mean, the line moved. There was some 4.5 sitting around at 6.5. Some books went to 7. Sharp money, wise guy money, whatever you want to call it. They already laid that number. Doesn't mean it's going to win, but OKC is going to win the game. I think OKC money line is good. Should I total go over? I don't know how it goes over again in Indiana. We'll see. But no, last basketball game will be Thursday, Adam.
Well, at least we have draft coverage ahead here on SportsGrid, and then Summer League right behind that. And then, we'll blink and it'll be time for football, right? And then all's right in the world again.
Yeah. But there'll be baseball in between. Don't forget, Rafael Devers is a San Francisco Giant. He's probably going to.
I had almost forgotten.
Maybe with that one on the way out. Yeah.
Yeah, look, you guys will talk about this. You and Wetzel. He said he's happy to do whatever they ask of him. Put me wherever you want. He'll probably out there playing shortstop if you need him to. Put him in center field. He'll be shacking balls. Oh my God.
Unreal.
Dave Sharapan again. Thank you, sir. He is on Twitter at SportsBK Consig, the Sportsbook Consigliere. He will be up next with Scott Wetzel. So make sure, again, you just keep the grid tuned on radio, TV, wherever you are following us, to take a look at what is happening on the diamond. So I was sweating out a Phillies first 5 play. They were down going into the top of the 5th, 2-1 against Miami in South Florida, managed to score 2 runs top of the inning to go up 3-2. Then at the bottom of the inning, there were 2 outs. Everything is fine. There's nobody on base. All of a sudden, you blink, there are runners at the corners, but they managed to get out of that jam. And now here, it gets sweaty if you're on Philly full game, because bottom 6, it's still 3-2, but the first 2 men are aboard for Miami, threatening to tie, even potentially take a lead in this game. I did not play the full. I thought the first 5 was the way in this game, and sort of lucked into a hit on that one, so happy to get it. But we got a lot going on the diamond tonight that I am invested in, and we'll see how those come to fruition. Games that are in progress right now. How about this one? If you run Detroit first 5 ticket, or even put it in a parlay or something, given the juice, you just got 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th inning to tie up Pittsburgh in Detroit 3-3. And that is with nobody out right now as well. So an opportunity still for the Tigers to potentially take a lead and win you that first 5 bet. But either way, at least you get the push and you don't lose it, which is huge. Rockies, I'm sorry, Sam. Somehow they are up 3-2 in Washington against the Nationals, bottom 5. So the Nats, I know they have not been good, obviously, but still, you'd like to think at home you could respond a little bit against a historically bad Colorado team that may win yet again, not only in this series, but I think 3 straight overall. Angels putting it on the Yankees. George Kurtz said he was on the under. I guess it's kind of sort of tracking. You're elevated just a little bit right now. Could come down. It's 3-0 Angels leading in the Bronx, bottom 3 in that one. Yankees being 1 hit so far. Diamondbacks offense has a couple men aboard with 1 out, top of the 4th, but so far, nothing doing. They are being shut out by the Blue Jays, 2-0 in Toronto. The Twins, I don't like this. I'm on Cincinnati first 5 and full game, leaning into Abbott more than anything. And it is Cincinnati trailing, being no hit, no less, but only through a couple innings. But down 1-0 in the bottom of the 3rd inning, Cincinnati will be coming to bat here after Minnesota got its first run. Mets and Braves have yet to start. We talked about the rain on the East Coast, especially the Northeast, but this game is in Atlanta, so East Coast in general, there is yet to begin, obviously. The Orioles up 1-0 in Tampa. That game is bottom 2. And hey, bottom 1, White Sox on the board. Did you play it? Did you invest when you got that nice, meaty, plus money number? White Sox are up 1-0 at the end of 1 against the Cardinals. So there's a lot in front of us here tonight. Do we back to God? Has Rafael Devers really got a homer in his Giants debut? Guy probably is. Thanks to all of our guests, Sam Kofsky. I am Adam Kev. Might be back with you tomorrow. We'll see you. It's been Game Time Decisions here on Sports Grid.